Hello everybody, today I'm going to talk about more factoring examples when you have a quadratic in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c and a does not equal 1. I have another video that explains the process that you can take to factor these, and these are just 3 more examples, and these examples specifically are a little more challenging than the previous examples that I did. So in this video, I'm going to use guess and check. I also have another video that does these same 3 examples using grouping. So looking at example number 1. I know that something in this form will factor into 2 binomials. Using the guess and check method, I'm going to separate 5m squared to represent the first terms of the binomials. The only way to represent that would be 5m times m because 5 is a prime number. When you go to break up the 6 to figure out what the last terms are of the trinomial, 6 has a couple different options, right? You can multiply to 6 by 2 times 3. You can multiply to 6 by 6 times 1. The other thing that we want to recognize in this problem is that we have a plus sign in the back and a minus sign in the middle. Anytime that happens, you know that both of the signs in your parentheses are going to be minus signs. So it's a pattern that we can recognize that can help us to factor these problems. So I know that both of these are going to be minus signs. Now I just need to determine whether I'm going to use 2 and 3, 3 and 2, 6 and 1, or 1 and 6. So this is where the guessing comes into play. So if I guess 3 and 2, 5n times m is 5m squared. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. We do need to check to make sure that we get this term. This is what you're checking. And the way that I check that is I simply take the product of the outside terms and the product of the inside terms, and I add them together. When I add them together, I can see that it's not quite what I'm looking for, but I'm really close. So since I'm really close, I'm going to keep the 2 and the 3, but I'm going to switch their places. This is where a whiteboard could be really handy, or if you got it wrong, you can just cross it out and rewrite it. So now I'm going to check what I have here. I know that the first and last terms are good to go because I use those to make an educated guess of what goes in my binomials, taking the outside and the inside to check. The product here is negative 2m. The product here is negative 15m. And you can see, adding those together, I do get the middle term. So this whole entire problem checks out, and this is your answer. Remember that the order of the parentheses does not matter. You could have the answer of m minus 3 times 5m minus 2, and that would also be a correct answer. It's the same exact product. Okay? What is not the same would be something like this. 5m minus 3 times m minus 2. This is not the same. You would not get this trinomial as the product of this problem here. Okay, let's take a look at this next problem. Okay, so in my next problem, I know it's going to be 2 binomials. I'm not sure what I'm going to use for the 12c squared to break that up, but I do know for the last terms it has to be a negative 5. So that means it's either going to be a negative 5 plus 1, or it's going to be a plus 5 minus 1 for those last terms of the binomials. So we have some options here, right? I'm just going to go with the minus 5 plus 1. I can switch those signs later if I need to. Now for the first terms, I'm looking at 12c squared. What's tricky about that is there's different ways that we can multiply to 12. 4 times 3, 6 times 2, 12 times 1. Okay? So I'm just going to sort of pick one, and I'm going to go with it, and I'm going to just give it a try. So I'm going to go with the 4 and the 3, I'm going to go with 3c and 4c. Because 3c and 4c will give me 12c squared, negative 5 and positive 1 will give me negative 5. Remember, in a problem, if the last term is negative, you know that these signs are going to be opposites. This tells you that you're going to have some opposite signs. When the last term is positive, you know that the signs are going to be the same. So just some patterns to pay attention to. It just helps you to make a better guess. Okay? So looking at this problem, we now have 3c times 4c is 12c squared. Negative 5 times negative 5 times positive 1 is negative 5. But we need to check that we get this middle term. So checking that, that's a plus 3c and a negative 20c. This checking is something that I do in my head. So I'll write it down, and I know that my first term and my last terms are right because I use those to help me guess what the terms of my binomials are going to be. The checking is something that I can do in my head, or I can quickly write it down, even off to the side here, really messy, and see, oh, that doesn't give me positive 11. That's not right. Okay, so whatever works best for you is fine. So you can see that this is not working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch some terms around. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch the 5 and the positive 1. So I'm going to put positive 1 here and a negative 5 here. When I do that, if I check the outside, that's negative 15c. If I check the inside, that's positive 4c. That does not give me positive 11, but it does give me negative 11. So I'm really close. So what could you do with these values to get a positive 11? Yeah, imagine if you had positive 15c and a negative 4c. You would have what you need. So all I need to do on this problem to get to my answer is switch my signs around. So negative, plus, switch them around. Checking my answer here. There's my 15c. There's my negative 4c. Together, that's 11c. So here is my answer. Okay, let's take a look at the last example. If you want to try this problem on your own, before I go ahead and do it, please pause this video and give it a try. Okay, hopefully you tried it. If not, do it along with me. Two binomials. Let's make a guess. For 6y squared, to break that up, again, different ways to break up 6, 3 times 2, and 6 and 1. I'm going with 3 and 2. It's always my go-to. So 3y and 2y will give me 6y squared. For negative 4, different ways to multiply with 4, 2 times 2, and 4 times 1. So I'm going to go ahead and use 4 and 1. Let me explain why I would not use 2 and 2. If I use 2 and 2, what that would end up with, if you look at the second binomial, is you end up with a GCF inside of there. You should not end with a GCF inside either of your binomials. So no GCFs allowed in final binomials of factored form. So that's not allowed. And if there was no GCF at the beginning of the problem, there should be no GCFs left in your binomials. So this has no GCFs. So I should not have any GCFs here. So I know 2 and 2 is not going to work. Again, another pattern to follow. So I'm going to use 4 and 1. So I'll put 4 here, I'll put 1 here. I need it to be a negative 4, so I'm just going to do negative 4 and positive 1. 3y and 2y is 6y squared. Negative 4 and positive 1 is negative 4. Now I'm going to check my answer either mentally or on the page and make changes as needed. And look at that. We got the right answer. No need to change anything. I got negative 8y and 3y gives me negative 5y, and that is my final answer. Now you might ask, how am I able to get and figure out which numbers to use and which ones not to use? I noticed that I had really small numbers here, so I wanted to work with small numbers, and I wanted to work with small products. As you practice this guess and check method, you tend to become better with it and faster with it, more efficient, and you make better guesses. I hope these 3 examples helped you. And if you want to see these 3 problems done using the grouping method, please check out my other video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel so that you can see other videos of other math topics. And good luck with your practice.